You are listening to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where illumination and inspiration is but a click away. With so many genre topics for you on everything that you need to know in life. We celebrate and share the people who have taken the journey before you and who are now here to serve you with their wisdom and their knowledge. The next show coming up is... Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Sara's View of Life. I'm your host, Sara Troy, right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. Well, our topic I want to discover today is about working as we're getting older. Senior jobs, senior industry, senior businesses. I know an awful lot of people right up to 86 that are still having to work because their pension isn't enough. Their pension doesn't even cover their rent or their mortgage. And we don't know what circumstances happened to the fact that they didn't manage to save enough. Sometimes they were cheated, or sometimes, external expenses. And also the cost of living has tripled or quadrupled at the rate that the pension and everything else has gone up. So having to still work as a senior because you have to, there are numerous of us. I am one. And it is imperative that we find something that we want to do, that we love to do. Now, for an awful lot of people that are the senior plus or 50 plus, for them it's been a change of career, that redirection. It's been about, I'm tired of the corporation, I'm tired of the rat race, I'm tired of never being home, I'm tired of doing something I don't like or don't enjoy anymore. I want to do something that really connects with me, that's passionate, that's meaningful, that is my purpose. And that is that self-discovery of your journey of life into becoming what you are meant to be, doing what you're meant to do, and doing it from a heart and conscious space. And many, many people, 50, 40 plus, are doing exceptionally well in those chosen careers later in life because they have the wisdom, they have the knowledge, but more importantly, it's not about, I want to reach the top and be successful and make a lot of money. It's about my success is based in how much can I serve others, how much can I help others in their lives, how much can I ignite in other people, excuse me, and how much joy do I get out of doing it? For if you are in that state of being, it's wonderful, and because you're doing it because you're driven by the passion, by the conviction, by the calling. But if you're doing it because it literally is your survival, and as you get older and as you get slower and as you get mental, physical challenges along the way, it gets harder. So we really need to look at society and where it is right now. The more North American and even part of the Western society does not regard seniors. They look at old people as just expired. You've had your time, time to go. We don't look at the fact of the amount of knowledge or wisdom that their journey in life, the nuggets that are there for us to click on, to pick on, to learn from, is abundant. Nothing is going to get in the way of your journey, but with knowledge from people who have gone before you, with avoidance of the potholes or the Grand Canyon, you can get much further ahead, and you can do it in a way without having to fall right down that rabbit hole. So why are we not listening to our seniors? Why are we not listening to those wise ones that have taken the knocks, had the roller coaster, and picked themselves up in that self-discovery to what they are doing today in passion and conviction? Why are we also not taking care of our elderly? Now, I've just turned 65, so of course it's a subject close to me right now. I work because I love it. This is my calling, my conviction, but also because I have to. My pension is certainly not anywhere near enough to sustain me, won't even cover my rent. So I have to work. But I'm lucky the fact that I work at something that is a drive for me, a calling, a passion, a conviction. It is everything. I have stepped into this. And my book that will come out next year will actually show that journey into that passion and that conviction. But when I come across people, late 60s, 70s, even 80s, still having to work or be on their feet, they can't get jobs in their old industry because they're, quote, too old. They can't adjust to some of the new technologies because it's just too far out there for them. And it means a lot of the time that they've got to be on their feet or taking menial jobs at maybe a menial price where they used to be peak at their jobs, and in order to sustain themselves. Now, some work because A, it's the extra money, and B, is it's something to do. They want to be a part of something. But to be in a state where you're still having to work at 86 to make ends meet, that's a really sad scenario, isn't it? So what's gone wrong? Why are we not respecting our elders? Why have the pensions not reflected the increase in living? Why is it that the pension doesn't even cover the rent, never mind the food and all the other expenses, the medicine, the everything else? Why is it that at this age they can't just be sitting back enjoying life, which they've worked for all their lives, but they're still having to work? Now, I know in some cultures, working is something they do to the day they die. It's something they've done since they were children. But still, it comes to it that why can't we give them an option to smell the roses, to get out there, enjoy life, to sit back and put their feet up? For some, it's still wanting to be a part of something, which they can. But I think it should be a choice and not because they have to. In many cultures, they respect their elderly. It is time for them to put their feet up, time for them to enjoy the grandkids or their friends and their companions or travel. Those hobbies that they always wanted to do, or just getting out and socializing. And they have every right to do that because they've worked all their lives for it. It's not their fault that the pension does not cover their costs. So this is where family steps in. Family, do not just discard your parent or your grandparent in an old age home and go, "Oof, I got rid of that one." Yes, they may be getting slower. Yes, they may be repeating things. Yes, they may not hear you as well. Yes, they may tell you the same story that you've heard before. But have some respect, have some patience, and care. Oh, please, care. We see all the time things that are going on in old age homes that are just not kosher, just not respectful. We see all the time people taking animals back to shelters because they're senior and they don't want to bother with them anymore. We see people depositing their parents in old age homes that are cheap because they've taken the money. Or we see people who get caregivers in that we really don't care how well they care them as long as it's not their burden. This person gave you life. This person brought you up. This person paved your road. Have some respect. This is your blood. This is your DNA. And this is your culture. So if you don't want it happening to you, don't do it to another. The system needs to change. The trillions and trillions and trillions that are spent on wars, that are spent on campaigns, that are spent on wasteful other things and in the excuse of, yet we do not support our children in education, in housing, in clothing, in food. We do not support our elderly. God forbid if you should have dementia or Alzheimer's, it's almost like they just throw you away. No, you can't remember, so who cares? We care. Humanity cares. The person that has been abused cares. The person that has been neglected cares. The person without a family that's living on their own. What they crave is company. What they crave is someone to talk to, someone to have a meal with. The homeless that can't afford a home anymore, that have worked all their lives, they're now just the forgotten people, tossed out with the garbage. They care for company, they care for shelter. they care food in their bellies. So I think as a humanity, it's time we step up and started caring. If you are having to work at your 50 plus, this isn't a wind down to when you're going to retire. You've got a good fund. Don't forget, for a lot of people, the pensions were a government pension or a pension to do with their jobs. And when they retired, they thought it was going to be enough. Look how costs have risen. I live in BC, Canada. Our rental and our housing costs have gone through the roof. Our expense of living has skyrocketed. Hardly anybody can afford to live like this. It's so hard to keep up. Many people are working 2 jobs just to manage to do it. So for somebody who got a pension 5 or 10 years ago, it's not enough. And there is no reform in the pension. There's also a lot of penalization. You've got a pension, but you're going out and working in order to make ends meet, but also so you can afford maybe to retire later. But if you earn too much, then they ding your pension. It's just unfair. So the system needs to change. And the only way we're going to change it is through our demand. Now, I know there's the RSVPs, but they don't save very much. And they're also subject to, again, what's going on in the government. There are an awful lot of schemes out there, and we have to be very careful of them because a lot of them are scams. So how do we help people make a choice to prepare for their elderly age? If you're young and you're listening to this, please put money aside. Put it somewhere that it's going to grow. Put it somewhere that it cannot be lost. Please do your research. Don't forget, if a bank goes bankrupt, they can take money from people's accounts in order to cover that bankruptcy. Put it somewhere where you know it's going to be secure. So make sure you hire a proper financial person that can see the future, that knows something that is really, really secure. If you've got the money for extra, property that you can rent out, then great. But don't forget you have the upkeep of that property as well. So look in ways that you can save, that you can generate an income for later, because you're going to need it. Do not rely on the pension. If you're paying into pension schemes, make sure they're going to be around. My brother was conned out of 8 years of his pension at a school. He thought he was paying into it. He was paying into it, but the money was being filtered out somewhere else. And even though the person was caught, they never got their 8 years accumulation, which affected his pension when he retired. So you really need to look where you're working. What's the pension scheme? What else can you pay into? You really need to secure something in any way that you can when you're young, so you have that security, a property. Even if you buy an apartment and you're living in a house right now and you're renting out the apartment, that apartment is yours later to go to, a roof over your head. Believe me, I don't have any of that. I lost everything. And at 65, yes, I'm going to work until the day I die in order to maintain my life. It is important that we look and prepare for our old age. And that if we are out there starting again and doing a job that we love and taking all that wonderful wisdom that we've learned through our lives and doing something that helps other people, then make sure that you do pace yourself. And again, the money you earn, put some aside, because there's going to come a day where you cannot do it anymore. Find ways to secure yourself, to secure your future. Prices of rent and housing and expenditures are not going to go down. They're going to go up. We have an epidemic of homelessness. We have an epidemic of seniors who can't afford to live in a home. We have an epidemic of suicide because people can't afford to live anymore. We have an epidemic of anxiety, stress, and depression. And that is because of the pressures of life out there and the discord of separation and division that is going on in our society. Division politically, division religiously, division racism, division ageism, division sexism, and that divide makes us weak. That divide cripples us. And as a society, as a community, as a nation, as a country, as a human race, the more we divide, the more we become vulnerable. Very, very, very vulnerable to those that will exploit that. And I promise you, they are exploiting it. So this is not a time to divide. This is a time to unite. It's okay to see things differently, to think things differently. Come together on the common denominators. Come together on the foundations of what you have in common, and agree to disagree, but do not agree to divide or be conquered. That is as simply as it is. So if you know somebody that is working at a plus age as a senior, don't take pity on them, but ask, what can you do? Is there something you can do to make it easy for them? You may think their course is a bit slower than this up and coming person, but never ever underestimate that knowledge that's there. It's been learned through life experience, through everything they've done before, for everything they believe in. And maybe it's a bit slower, but what you're going to get out of that content is going to be so much more thorough. So as you look at an elderly person like myself, or 50 plus, and think that where time is out pasture, forget it. We have never in the history of time had so many people 50 plus or 60 plus. And in the next 10 or 12 or 15, 20 years, we're going to have more elderly in the world than ever, ever, ever before, and than the younger people. Younger people are not multiplying, they're not having children. And this is why automation in many industries are coming in, and jobs are going into a higher acronym of ability. And layman type jobs are not going to be as out there as things become more automated and more machine-like. So look to the future of what is coming. Prepare for it if you're young. If you're middle-aged, make sure that that pension is going to look after you. If you are thinking of starting another career midlife or as a senior, look at a way that it can multiply and make a living for you once you stop, or supply enough for you to put aside to give you that retirement that you deserve. And if you're still having to work in your 70s and your 80s, or even your 90s, then please may people reach out to you and help you in every way that you can. Because at some point, you should put your feet up, you should enjoy yourself, and not have to worry where that next loaf of bread is coming from, or whether you can pay the rent this month. So, be prepared, all right? We're getting older every single second of the day. And I know when you're young, I'm going to live forever. I don't need to worry about something that's 20, 30 years down the road. I will be okay. No, you won't. You won't. Because the pensions go at this rate and the expenses quadruple at a higher rate. So how do you secure your future? How do you secure your retirement? How do you find a job or a career that is so wonderful and so meaningful to you that it can sustain you into retirement? Be mindful. Please don't put things aside. I did. I put all my money and investment in something that I thought would provide my future, my family's future. It didn't pan out. Yes, I got taken, Sara, and I lost everything. And yes, I'm starting all over again. But I have found my abundance in the work that I do, the enrichment of the work that I do, the people that I get to interview and share with you, the commitment and the love and the passion of what I do. I've just got to make sure that it sustains me in the ability to keep doing it. So don't forget, we have a Fund It button. You can donate here anytime. We have a sponsorship. And coming up soon with the alignment with publishers and a few other people, we're going to have different type of memberships. So I'm looking after my future so that I can continue to do this because I love to do it. But please, whatever age you are, look to your future and say, am I prepared for retirement? The big question at any age. And if you're not, please start thinking about it, because I don't want you to be like me. unprepared. I don't want you to be like my 86-year-old friend Audrey, who's still having to work on her feet. That's a demo woman, even though she was an accountant. Nobody will hire her at that age. She's not computer savvy. And she's still having to be 7 hours on her feet, 4 days a week, in order to earn enough money to stay in her own home. Do you want to be that? No. I know so many people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s that are still having to work because the pensions aren't enough. So please think about your future. Please. And please have respect for the elderly, for the seniors, for the middle-aged, for the mature. Do not throw them out in garbage. Do not take them back to a shelter. Do not deposit them anywhere. Take the time to listen. There's so much wisdom to be learned, if only you would give us the time. Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show and were inspired to come and visit us at selfdiscoverymedia.com and see what other shows we have for you. And please do visit our selfdiscoverycommunity.org and see how you can be a part of giving back. Thank you very much.